I met Casey in 2017 through a mutual friend. I was brought in to participate in a meeting about a potential need within the community. So one conversation led to another, and I received an employment offer, and of course, it was Casey, so I couldn't refuse. So I accepted and have been with LSW ever since.
How did I first meet Casey? Oh my gosh. In Clark County, I feel like you can meet Casey for the first time in like 10 different ways. But I joined the CRDC as staff while he was on the board. And I remember being immediately struck that he was one of the most supportive, empowering, and just friendly people that you could possibly work for and with. Anything related to community efforts, support of local nonprofits, and trying to expand the business climate here. Casey just made such a splash for me as a staff person. New to that environment, new to a board of 48 people, which is pretty large. I just remember just the familiar face and kind of this always very agreeable, supportive nod you get across the table.
So everyone remembers March of 2020, that here in the city of Vancouver, that's when everything went to hell in a handbasket. And we were following the governor's guidelines on restaurants, which were closing down at the time. That was March of 2020, and in May of 2020, we started looking for solutions, and it was Casey that came to our rescue with those restaurants. What we were hoping to do is to have the opportunity to talk about how do we get the restaurants up and going, give them that little extra boost, and the idea of parklets came. That was May, and the next month, Casey had the first parklet done and ready to go for Mighty Bowl. I don't think I know of any project that the city has ever done that from start to finish was completed in 1 month, but Casey got it done. And he met not just the city building code, but the county public health codes and then the state of Washington's liquor codes. But that was a saving opportunity for so many restaurants. Now we have parklets, little opportunities for restaurants to have individuals come and join them for dinner outside on the street in unique ways.
The first time I met Casey, I think, it's hard to remember, it was probably a community engagement kind of leadership function. It seemed like for a number of years that I would go to some place that was talking about leadership in the community and Casey would always be there. And I was always struck by just his kindness and the way he approached people, and I just kind of watched him for a number of years and I kept thinking, like, I want to work with this guy.
Well, I first met Casey when I was interested in what was then known as the Skull Center Foundation and looking for ways to help it out and how I could serve. And he was the current board chair of the foundation. It's now Cascadia Tech Foundation. And I met him just by calling him up and letting him know that I was a recent Leadership Clark County graduate and asking him to coffee to talk about the Skills Center. And that was our first meeting. Why Casey really stuck in my mind is that he took me through very in-depth everything that the foundation does and encouraged me to join the board, which I did. And that was my very first board position. And my soft spot for Casey is that he took me under his wing and really taught me how to be an effective board member. And when he left the board, then years later, I took his place as chair and chaired that organization for quite some time. So without the mentorship of Casey, it would have taken me a lot longer to become an effective board member.
Casey's made a difference in our community in so many ways. I mean, obviously there's the projects that he's been a part of, and so there's physical structures that exist because of his leadership in the teams that he's been a part of. But then there's also these relationships that are in the community that Casey strengthens and adds so much to those kinds of collaborations and projects. So, you know, you've got physical structures and then you got these like emotional networks that are focused on doing good and bringing out the best in others.
So my last year on staff at CREDC, Casey was actually my board chair, so technically my boss. So I've had him as a boss twice now, which is a pretty good track record. And he ran my exit interview, and it was the most quintessentially Casey Wyckoff exit interview, which was 5 minutes of prepared, very poignant, direct questions. And then he crumpled that paper up and threw them away and said, okay, but just what do you want to do? Like, what are you excited about in your life? What are you excited about in your career? And we spent that kind of moment in personal transition for me, just visioning, my hopes and aspirations for myself in the context of this community. I just remember, again, that big grin on Casey's face, facilitating that conversation and just wanting to be a champion. So that's a moment that will resonate with me for a long time.
Obviously, Casey has a passion for architecture through his work with LSW. He really saw a need within our community where children were really not being exposed to the profession. And so he, along with others, helped create a program called Design Commission, where we partner with schools and offer students the ability to come in, learn about the profession, learn about other aspects outside of architecture that are connected to the profession, and get credit for them.
Well, I see Casey as a general force of encouragement in our community. He doesn't just focus on his business, but also a ton of his own side projects, as well as offering encouragement and words of wisdom and support to others trying to do some lifting in the community.
Well, Casey has done so many things for us, but I'm going to stay with that whole idea of parklets, because we have a restaurant here in Vancouver, Elements. Chef Soswa was looking for an opportunity. How do you build a parklet on a slope on a city street? And I think the best story was watching Casey in action as he took a very difficult situation with a chef who had a dream, who had an idea. How do you implement it? How do you make it more than just something an architect can design, but that true partnership of listening to the chef, the owner of a restaurant, making something work, meeting all of the various codes, and helping him create. And I think as I see Casey in our community, that is what he does. He's not just an architect. He's a planner, he's a designer, he's a creative thinker, he's a problem solver. He works with all of us to make something special in our little world. And that just speaks volumes for us.
Casey inspires me in so many ways connected with leadership. It just so happens that they are the same parameters that KMP has. So modeling the way, I think anyone who knows Casey knows that he is a man of integrity and that he is going to show you what leadership looks like while encouraging you and motivating you to grow and be better. And that's exactly what he does for me. I am a better leader. I am a better human being today because I know Casey.
I think for me, when I think about those principles, I go to the last one, encourage the heart. I was a math teacher, and math teachers aren't necessarily known for being heart folk. And I've learned a lot through the years about how important the relationships are and how important that connection with people is. And I think Casey models that. Challenging
the process is what I think Casey enjoys doing a little bit in a wonderful way, not a difficult way. To take a problem, help us think differently. How can we solve this problem? And whenever we have something that we need his advice on, Casey is a good listener.
Casey has a vision for what he sees Clark County and Southwest Washington growing to and becoming and simply improving. And he carries that vision with him in all the organizations that he's involved with, as well as in his day-to-day work.
Well, in the context of KMP, Casey checks all those boxes, so really lives those values and literally everything he does. But in the context of my interaction with him, I think modeling the way is what stands out most. I've not worked or interacted with somebody that can say so little with words, but say so much with actions in ways that positively benefits people and organizations. And Casey lives that dynamic every single day in everything that he does. And it's just been an incredible opportunity to work alongside him and be the beneficiary of that type of leadership style and lifestyle that's so selfless and focused on the success of others.